props. Right, that's over
It was good. It was a little too long, but not long enough. So it was solid though.
Are you excited to go into training camp and I guess get to know whoever you're going to be on the team this season?
Yeah, I mean, this is always the start of the NBA season, and it's the start of another journey. So I'm grateful to be in a position right now, and look forward to going out there, getting on the court with whoever's on the court with us, and having fun.
Seeing the reports.
What report?
The reports that Karl-Anthony Towns is being traded to the Knicks.
You got Cat? Oh, wow, it's crazy.
Just thoughts on that and the guys that you're losing,
that's always a tough one, obviously, because the NBA is always a business, as you all know. But you form relationships and friendships with guys, and I was with you, here, for a year and a half. I was with him in LA. Obviously with Dante, in college. So you have good relationships with those guys, and you hate to see guys like that go, especially with the caliber of player they are, and also the caliber of people that they are. But like I said, sometimes the NBA is a tough business, and Cat's an amazing player. Someone who be really good in terms of spacing, knocking down shots, blocking shots, creating attention, creating plays for his teammates. So, it's, you love it and hate it.
What do you think it does for the team and the offense to have 5 players from the floor that can shoot the three at the same time?
It allows the spacing to be. The court's going to be wide open. The rim's going to be there. It's going to give guys. It's going to put defensive rotations. It's going to free up more opportunities for offensive rebounds. So it's going to be a positive. But you just got to make sure you work into it. You got to get a feel for everybody in their game and where they like to be at. So it's going to be a process of learning, but it definitely will open the court up. No, you good. You was just a little excited, wasn't you? It's all good. It's media day, brother. It's the first day. I know.
You always running upside down, or is that just for today?
Always.
Knowing Isaiah's gone and Mitch wasn't going to be ready for possibly quite a while, did you think you guys were going to go out and look for a center, or you're just going to have to get 17 boys?
Not the latter. But you always know there's going to be moves being made, and sometimes those moves are sped up by guys being hurt or guys leaving free agency. So you figure probably something would happen, but you never know. So that move has unofficially been made, but you had a feeling maybe something would happen.
less minutes at 7 p.m.
Thank God.
That's a lot of change for a 50-win team that just broke through, and despite injuries, despite missing trades and all that stuff, would you have a feeling like, you guys needed to make more moves? Would you prefer continuity, or how do you feel about the balance of those?
I don't know. Like I said, we just came off a 50-win season with being a 2 seed, being a game short of the Eastern Conference Finals, barring injuries. So, and those are 2 of my guys. Obviously, you would have liked to have seen that one more time and just try to get a feel for that, fully healthy. But like I said, it's a business, and when you're able to make moves that allow a team to improve, you always do that. And there's always a risk and reward for every trade or every draft pick or whatever it is. So we're happy with where we are, and we're going to continue to improve.
I think you got to know Julius a little bit more so here than also LA. You guys had a shared name. How tough was it for him, do you think, when he became like the face of the franchise for a little bit here?
Yeah, I think for him it was probably pretty difficult and pretty frustrating. He came here when they were losing record, where they were struggling, and he helped turn the franchise around and kind of change the trajectory of it. And I think New York as a fan base is eternally grateful for him for that, and the time that he spent here. I think he's, as you guys know, he plays with extreme passion and competitiveness. So probably tough, but I hope, I think he played them in preseason, but, when we see them again in preseason and when they come here, I hope and know that, the Garden, we're going to show both of those guys love for the sacrifices that they made in the Knicks jersey.
I know it's almost a decade ago, but what worked with you and Mikal and Jalen at Villanova in that 2016 championship year, and is this stuff replicable at the pro level?
Yeah, I think you can replicate it. I think the execution, obviously in different systems, but to win you have to be on a string, or you have to have a really good connection. You have to have execution. You have to have sacrifice, and I think that's something that we all have done before. I think we all continue to do in our NBA journeys, and now sharing the court this year, I think is going to be the same. Obviously, we're going to have growing pains, but I think we're all willing to get through that, willing to sacrifice, and do whatever it takes to win.
Josh, he's pretty loaded with the Celtics and what the Sixers did, the Bucks and the Pacers. How close do you think this team is to competing for a championship, and just how tough is the East going to be?
The East is definitely going to be tougher. Like you said, a lot of teams made big moves this offseason and moves to share up their rotation. So it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a cakewalk, and we know that. We think we're able to compete at a very high level, and we'll see how high that level is during this year. But we're extremely confident in what we have, officially and unofficially, and we're ready to get started.
I want to go back to the college thing real quick. Hearing stories of when coaches were able to get you to practice with the intensity they'd like you to practice with, and Mikal was often the beneficiary of your frustration, I guess. Can you explain those early relationships and those battles when he was a very skinny freshman?
Yeah.
Jalen called him a bully.
Wasn't a bully. I'm just saying now. I didn't like freshmen, there, because it's like it's just a process of especially at Nova, where it's like you have a Villanova way. That's how you play basketball, and freshmen obviously they don't know that, so they got to try to figure it out. And for me, I'm just like, man, let's go, let's keep it moving, let's do that. You don't want people slowing up the process. So I'm the same way with rookies now. I'm just I'm a little more tempered. I got kids now, so but I think all the adversity that we had, with Mikal and Jalen, in college, that's where relationships are really forged in adverse situations, and I feel like we all went through it together. And I feel like that's why we have the close bond that we have now, and I think that's going to translate onto the court, off the court, and we're extremely excited to all be on that court at one time.
Did you know Cat from before at all, or is this like the first time?
Met him a couple of times, talked to him a couple of times. Don't really know him too well, but the times that I had talked to him and ran into him, he's a great dude, high character. I think someone like that with his high character would fit well.
When can we expect him on the roommate spot?
Hell, you gotta ask him that. So, we always love to have everybody on. So,
Josh, with the changes that you thought about your role what it would be? Is there a preference in terms of starting? Do you think about that at all?
I don't care. My role is, bro, I'm gonna play my game. However I play my game, Tibbs gonna let me know what role he needs me to play, and I'm gonna do that. I mean, you know, if he needs me to rebound, I'll rebound. Needs me to play defense, I'll play defense. Needs me to score, I'll score. Like I feel like I've shown in the league I can do a little bit of everything. I've had a season where I've averaged 15 points. I had a season where I averaged 8 rebounds. I had a season where I averaged 5 assists. I feel like I've done everything, and you know, I'll let him dictate what he feels the team needs of me, and I'll do that.
You ready to get like 48 again?
Hell no. No.
Fred, defensively, you're going to play a lot of minutes next to Bridges. And you guys are probably going to switch a lot in those lineups. Probably a lot more than you guys have switched during your time with the team in general. Can you just take us through what that process is when you're in like a switch-heavy defense? What you're doing in your career, like how much of that is communication? How much of that is preparation versus familiarity? Like, what do you guys have to do to prepare yourself for that sort of stuff?
It's definitely takes some getting used to, because I think all of us, you know, at a certain point of our careers, we always were, you know, the guy that took on the biggest guy, the big matchup. So sometimes when you're in the game, in the zone, like you have those competitive juices firing, you know, sometimes you don't want to switch anything. You want to get over every screen. You want to continue to compete with you know, the best of the best. So I think we'll have to try to figure that out sometimes. It's going to be big in communication. I'm sure there'll probably be some choice words sometimes, and holding each other accountable. But I think we'd rather have that than the other way around. You know, we got guys that can play and guard multiple positions at a very high level, and we're going to have fun with that.
Josh, for many years the goal here was just making the playoffs. Now you hear the term contend for the title. Do you think the components are here to do just that?
I mean, there's always questions, right? I mean, with you know, some of the uncertainty with officially and unofficially of whatever happens in the next you know, day or so. But you know, how'd I word it? You just don't know. I mean, you know, obviously a big move was made, and you had to try to figure out how that fits. And you had guys you were very comfortable with are gone. So I think we're going to be a very good team. I'm not going to sit there and label us, you know, contenders. I'm not going to sit here and label us a lottery team. I'm not going to do any of that. That's for you guys to do. But I think we're going to be a team that's going to go out there and compete at a high level, a team that New York's going to be proud of. And, you know, we're wanting to bring excitement back to the city, and that's something that, you know, hopefully at the end of the year they'll have a lot of.
How advantageous is it to potentially unofficially welcome somebody into the fold who knows how to likes to work and his style?
It's huge. I mean, when you have unofficially a player like that, I mean, like I said, we talked about the spacing. We talked about his ability to protect the rim, the competitiveness, and then, you know, willing to sacrifice. And I think you saw that last year. His willingness to take a back seat, to other players on that team and let them shine and let them rise and continue to develop. So when you have someone like that who's high character, who's willing to sacrifice to win, and fits right in, that's a winning recipe, and extremely unofficially excited, about someone that fits that mold, but excited.
Your place on obviously predicated on physicality, throwing your body around. Just wondering what your offseason looks like in terms of rest, recovery. Are you off your feet most of the summer when you start picking back up basketball?
Yeah, I mean, especially the beginning of the year, beginning of the summer. I didn't really do anything for 4 weeks, I think it was 5 weeks. I had to let that my ab heal. That was like a 4 or 5 week recovery. So it was definitely with some rest. Let the body kind of get right, and then I started to slowly get back into lifting and making sure my body's strong. For the year, then I started picking up the ball, a little bit later. But I think the biggest thing for me is I know my style, and in the summer I don't like to do wasted activities or wasted workouts. I don't do 15 dribbles into a ball screen to a step back three. Like, I'm not going to do that in a game. Why the hell am I going to do it in the summer? I don't practice rebounding, but the summer is definitely a little bit slower, just so I can allow my body to kind of get back and get ready for the next season.
Are you going to have 100% or do you have to